Hey guys, tonight we begin with something gritty, grand, and absolutely unforgiving. Life in the Roman Empire. Not as a senator, not as an emperor, no golden laurel crown, no marble baths. Tonight, you're not Julius Caesar. You're just you. Dropped, unprepared, into a world of sandals, sewage, and state-sponsored crucifixion. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes to the sounds of yelling, chickens, and a baby crying somewhere down the hall. Congratulations! You've just woken up in a Roman insula, the ancient version of an apartment building. Think of it as a multi-story death trap held together with dust, prayer, and very questionable architecture. You're probably living on the 3rd or 4th floor, which is bad news. The higher the floor, the poorer the tenant, and the more likely your ceiling collapses when someone spills olive oil above you. Your room is small, no bigger than a walk-in closet, with stone walls that sweat in summer and freeze in winter. There's no window, just a little hole that lets in air, smoke, and the occasional pigeon. The mattress, stuffed with straw and lice. The blanket smells like damp wool and regret. There's no furniture, no decorations, and certainly no kitchen. Cooking inside is forbidden. A small fire could ignite the whole building, and fire codes haven't been invented yet. Your only possessions are a clay cup, a worn-out tunic, and maybe a wooden comb if you're feeling fancy. There's no toilet. Not in your room, not in your building. Your chamber pot sits in the corner, silently judging you. You'll have to carry it down narrow, rickety stairs to empty it into the street gutter, hopefully without slipping and adding your body to the morning offerings. Oh, and the walls, paper thin. You hear your neighbour praying, coughing, arguing with his wife, and unfortunately, not arguing with his wife, if you catch my drift. The air is heavy with smoke, mildew, and the distinct perfume of unwashed humanity. Someone's already baking bread downstairs, but you're not invited. The street vendors are yelling prices for figs and fish guts. A distant centurion is barking orders at someone who's probably already bleeding. You're not even out the door yet, and you're sweating, itchy, and possibly inhaling lead dust from the plumbing. Welcome to the Roman workday. You're not an emperor, you're not a gladiator, you're just another poor soul in an overcrowded tenement, trying not to fall down the stairs or anger a city god before noon. And you've still got 23 hours to go. Now that you've survived the climb down the crooked stairs of your insula, it's time to address the second most urgent matter of the morning, your bladder. There's no bathroom in your apartment, of course. No sink, no flush, not even a bucket with dignity. Instead, you shuffle down the street, chamber pot in one hand, modesty in the other, toward the nearest latrina, Rome's version of a public restroom, and calling it public is generous. It's a social club for strangers who don't mind making eye contact while doing their business. You arrive to find a long stone bench with holes cut into it. Beneath the bench, a shallow trough flows with water, just enough to carry away the collective shame of the city's lower classes. You sit if you dare, and hope the person beside you doesn't want to chat. Privacy? Not a thing. Doors? Absolutely not. People treat it like a town square with extra acoustics. Businessmen discuss grain prices while squatting. A retired soldier talks about his sciatica. Meanwhile, you're just trying not to look directly across from you where another man is chewing olives and not breaking eye contact. Then comes the real treat, the tersorium. It's a communal sponge on a stick, kept in a bucket of vinegar or salt water. In theory, you rinse it before use. In practice? Well, let's just say the sponge has seen things. Unspeakable things. You wipe, hesitantly, and hope the vinegar did its job. If you're feeling lucky, maybe you brought your own rag. If you're feeling rich, maybe some moss. But chances are you just used what everyone else used, and now carry the quiet shame of shared hygiene. And if you think you can skip this ritual by going in an alley, think again. Public urination laws exist, fines are real, and Roman law enforcement is not known for subtle warnings. Once you're done, you wash your hands. Wait, no you don't. There's no soap, no running water, just a rinse from the communal basin that's seen more fingers than a handshake competition. You leave the latrina feeling lighter and slightly more dead inside. But hey, that's Rome. And now it's time for breakfast, if you can call it that. So, you've done your morning business and managed not to fall into a gutter or get arrested. Impressive. Now it's time for breakfast, the most important meal of the day unless you're Roman, in which case it's more of a polite formality before work and misery. Welcome to the Irontaculum, a Roman morning feast that consists of precisely two things: stale bread and watered down wine. Sometimes there's cheese, sometimes there's olives, but mostly there's just disappointment. Forget about coffee. The Romans didn't have it. No eggs, no bacon, no pancakes, and certainly no oat milk lattes. Breakfast is not meant to be satisfying. It's meant to not kill you. Your bread is likely panis rusticus, a rough, chewy lump of grain and grit baked yesterday or the day before. It's dense enough to qualify as a weapon and textured like limestone. The wine is diluted, because even they knew that being drunk before sunrise in ancient Rome was a bad idea, unless you were a senator. There's no kitchen in your apartment, so you eat this meal standing in the street or squatting beside a fountain, alongside other equally unenthused citizens gnawing on bread like flavourless tree bark. If you've got a bit of oil or a smear of garum, Rome's famously salty fermented fish sauce, then congratulations, you've added aromatic horror to your already bleak meal. If you're wealthy, maybe you get fruit or honey. But you're not. You're a normal Roman citizen, just rich enough to not be enslaved and just poor enough to envy your neighbour's broken jug of goat milk. Sometimes vendors walk by selling hot chickpea fritters or honeyed pastries, and for a moment you feel hope. But you remember your coin pouch is emptier than a gladiator's sympathy, so you bite your bread and pretend it's cake. And this is how the day starts, with carbs, mild dehydration, and a growing realization that you're about to walk 7 miles on Roman sandals with nothing but stale crumbs in your stomach and a buzz from last night's leftover wine. It doesn't get better, because now it's time to go to work. After your hearty breakfast of bread and mild despair, it's time to face the Roman workday. And let's be clear, unless you're a senator, a poet with a patron, or one of the lucky few who inherited land from a dead uncle with no heirs, you are working, and you're doing it hard. You might be a labourer, porter, potter, bricklayer, street cleaner, or if your luck's truly sour, a sewer worker. Rome needs a lot of things: roads, aqueducts, temples, baths, and someone has to build them. That someone, you, with your bare hands, under the sun, wearing sandals that provide all the arch support of a soggy leaf. The Roman workday starts early, very early. The sun is barely up, but the foreman already is, yelling in Latin and waving a stick. If you're late, you're docked a day's pay or worse, beaten, shamed or fired, which in Roman terms means you starve with honour. Your tools are basic. You dig with a shovel made of splinters and prayer, carry bricks on your back, and haul water from a cistern that smells like old socks and ambition. There are no gloves, no helmets, just sweat, dust, and the constant awareness that one slip might crush your spine and your career simultaneously. And if you're a craftsman, good luck. You're competing with hundreds of others selling the same clay pots, sandals, or cheap tunics. Underpricing is common, and quality doesn't matter if a richer citizen decides he doesn't like your face. Even more elevated jobs, like messenger, accountant, or teacher, aren't glamorous. You're either running through Rome's chaotic streets with scrolls under your arm, writing numbers for someone who will forget your name, or trying to teach Latin to a group of senators' children who already think they're gods. Women? They're working too, spinning, weaving, selling vegetables, or managing stalls in the markets, plus raising children, plus managing the household, plus not dying during childbirth, multitasking before it was cool. And after all this, you get a short break for lunch. Maybe. If your supervisor isn't in a bad mood or trying to impress a visiting prefect. So yes, you work, or you die trying. Rome may be eternal, but your back won't be, so you've made it through the morning without fainting or being flogged. Now it's time to navigate the ancient Roman street, a chaotic, crowded gauntlet designed by someone who clearly hated personal space and public health. Picture it. The sun's high, the city's buzzing, and the street is alive. Not in a poetic way, in a literal way. Rats, flies, stray dogs, livestock, beggars, merchants yelling in 6 languages, children running wild, thieves pretending to help old ladies while pocketing your coin purse. It's like Times Square, if Times Square had no plumbing and everyone was carrying a goat. Let's talk infrastructure. Roman roads were engineering marvels, perfectly straight, masterfully paved, and usually overflowing with a blend of urine, spilled wine, vomit, animal waste, and the remains of last night's garum sauce. The middle of the street functions as an open sewer. Step off the raised footpath without looking, and congratulations. You've just baptized your sandal in the holy waters of human misery. Wagons clatter by with no speed limits, no crosswalks, and zero chill. They don't stop for pedestrians. In fact, Roman law actually banned heavy cart traffic during the day in the city, which means drivers race through at night, in the dark, without brakes, like charioteers on a deadline. If you're not crushed by wheels, you'll be bumped by elbows, baskets, or an angry fishmonger shouting about spoiled eels. Then there's the air, thick with smoke from cooking fires, incense from temples, the scent of public latrines wafting on the breeze. Oh, and dead animals. Sometimes people just leave them there. If a dog drops in the forum, someone might just toss a cloth over it and walk away. And don't forget public spectacles, spontaneous brawls, impromptu protests, or a politician's parade that blocks traffic for hours, while trumpet players blast off-key fanfare in your face. So yes, the Roman street is alive, and out to get you. Slip on a fig, get hit with a runaway cart, or accidentally offend a patrician's pet monkey, and your day could end faster than Caesar on the Ides of March. And you were just trying to go buy lentils. You're sweaty, dusty, and desperately craving a splash of something cold. The good news? You live in Rome, a city renowned for its aqueducts, those magnificent engineering marvels that carry fresh water from the hills straight into the heart of the empire. The bad news? That water doesn't care about you. Unless you're wealthy enough to live in a domus with your own private fountain, you're sharing water with thousands of your closest coughing, sneezing, not washing their hands neighbours. Your options are the public fountains, where everyone fills their jars, washes their feet, and occasionally dunks a child for fun or hygiene. And by hygiene we mean a wet version of hope. If you want to wash up, your best option is the thermae, the Roman public baths. They're everywhere, and everyone uses them. Sounds civilized, right? But here's the thing. The water cycles through multiple pools with no soap, no chlorine, and very little shame. You'll be sitting in a tepid bath with a dozen other men, none of whom believe in modesty. Conversations are loud, political, and occasionally naked. A man might try to sell you socks, while another cleans his ears with a stick. And the water, it's been through everyone. If you were hoping to feel clean, think again. You're marinating in bacteria with a hint of eucalyptus. Also, fun fact, the plumbing system often uses lead pipes. Yes, lead. Romans were obsessed with engineering, but not chemistry. Over time, that convenient indoor plumbing could cause all kinds of delightful side effects like anemia, gout, infertility, and, if you're truly lucky, madness. Want to drink something safer? Wine. Seriously. Water is viewed with suspicion, especially in the poorer districts where contamination from latrines and street runoff is common. So wine is diluted and consumed throughout the day by men, women, and children alike. Because what better way to survive a crumbling empire than with a gentle buzz? So yes, Rome brought water into the city before most of the world knew what a pipe was. But for the average citizen, it's a gamble every time you drink, bathe, or rinse your toes. Enjoy your aqueducts. Just don't trust them. Welcome to the Roman Empire, where pain isn't just a possibility. It's the background music of your entire life. You stub your toe, no ice, no painkillers. You grit your teeth and keep going until it either heals wrong or falls off. Break a bone? You wrap it in a dirty rag and try not to breathe too hard. Get a splinter? Good luck. That's how infections start and how you might end. Roman society isn't big on comfort. There are no ergonomic tools, no padded seats, no concept of taking it easy. If you're a labourer, you're lifting bricks with a hernia and a prayer. If you're a soldier, you march 20 miles a day with bleeding feet and a scorpion bite on your thigh. If you're a woman in childbirth, well, welcome to agony. Your midwife might know a chant. That's about it. Every part of your body is one misstep away from becoming an open wound or a cautionary tale. And unless you live near a temple with a very dedicated priest, your best option is homemade ointments, herbal smoke, or simply ignoring the problem until it resolves itself, or you get resolved into a grave. There's no such thing as anesthesia. Surgeries are performed while you scream into a block of wood. Dislocated shoulder? It's popped back in by a man named Marcus, who learned from watching someone else fail at it. Dental work? Picture a blacksmith. Now picture your mouth. That's the scene. And if you're enslaved or poor, people don't even pretend to care. You could be bleeding out on the side of the road, and the best you'll get is, don't stain the mosaic. Even upper-class Romans embraced pain as proof of virtue. Stoicism was the philosophy of the day. Enduring suffering without complaint was seen as noble. If you cried over a broken arm, you weren't just in pain. You were weak. Real Romans suffer silently, then write poetry about it later. So yes, pain is always on the table, and it usually comes without warning, without remedy, and definitely without sympathy. On that cheerful note, let's take a look at what happens when you actually go see a Roman doctor. So, you've hurt yourself. Maybe it was the infected blister from yesterday's work, or maybe you tried to shave with a bronze blade and now your chin looks like a gladiator training ground. Either way, it's time to seek medical attention, which, in ancient Rome, is less about healing and more about surviving the attempt. Let's begin with the basics. Roman medicine is a chaotic mix of Greek theory, mystical guesswork, and a surprising amount of leaves. The core belief? The body is ruled by 4 humours: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Feeling off? One of them is out of balance. The solution? Drain something. So your doctor, who may or may not also be your barber, immediately reaches for the leeches, or a knife. Because bloodletting is the default treatment for everything from migraines to moral failings. Have a cough? Let's open a vein. Depressed? We'll just drain some sadness out of your arm. Surgery? Oh yes, it exists. Roman surgeons had scalpels, forceps, and even bone drills. What they didn't have were anesthetics. You stay conscious through the whole procedure, gripping the edge of a wooden table while a man in a dirty toga digs into your flesh with the confidence of someone who once saw a scroll about it. Antiseptics? Not really a thing. They might wash wounds with wine or vinegar, which does help, but also burns like divine punishment. Infection is a common side effect. So is death. Prescriptions vary wildly. You might be given honey, garlic, crushed beetles, or a poultice made of herbs, ash, and very specific types of animal dung. If things get worse, you're advised to sleep in a temple, pray to Asclepius, and hope divine dreams will deliver your cure. And if none of it works, well, your doctor shrugs, your family lights a candle, and your neighbours start whispering about what kind of omen your death might be. It's not that Romans didn't care about health. They just hadn't quite figured out what helped and what murdered you more efficiently. So next time you sneeze, Be grateful for modern antibiotics, and that you don't live in a world where healing often starts with blood loss. After a long day of sweating, bleeding, and dodging carts, you're starving. Time for dinner, or as the Romans called it, cena. Just don't expect anything remotely comforting. Let's start with what's not on the table. No pizza, no pasta, no tomatoes, no potatoes, no chocolate, no sugar, and absolutely no coffee. None of those things had been discovered or imported yet. This isn't Italian cuisine. This is pre-Italy edible survival. You sit down to a wooden bowl of something brown and vaguely hot. It's probably pulse, a porridge made of spelt, beans, or lentils. It tastes like wet gravel with a hint of herb. If you're lucky. If you're not lucky, it tastes like wet gravel without the herb. Protein is rare unless you caught it, trapped it, or fished it yourself. Meat is expensive, and even when you do get some, it's off and off. Roman cooking didn't use refrigeration, so preservation meant heavy salting, smoking, or marinating it in garum, a fermented fish sauce that smells like dead ocean and burns your soul just thinking about it. If you're feeling festive, there might be boiled vegetables, hard cheese, or the occasional fig. Rich Romans dined on exotic dishes like roasted flamingo, stuffed dormice, or jellyfish in vinegar, delicacies that mostly scream, "Look at how rich I am and how little I care about taste buds." Your wine is watered down, always. Drinking it straight is seen as barbaric. But don't worry, the water it's mixed with is probably questionable too, so you're just choosing how fast you want to get sick. Dessert? Maybe dried fruit, maybe nuts, or maybe you're fasting because it's a feast day honouring a god who frowns on gluttony. Either way, you're not ending the night with a tiramisu. There are no napkins. You wipe your hands on a cloth shared with 10 other people, or just use your tunic and pretend it's clean. By the end of the meal, your stomach is full but uneasy, and your breath smells like garlic, wine, and slight despair. But at least you're fed. Now all you have to do is survive the Roman nightlife, and trust me, that's not a relaxing stroll. After a long day of grime, toil, and fish sauce, you might be hoping for a little leisure, something to take your mind off your crumbling apartment and the open sewer outside. Well, good news. You're in Rome, where entertainment is everywhere. Bad news? Most of it is horrifying. Let's start with the main event. The Colosseum, the crown jewel of Roman engineering, and the place where your soul quietly dies. This is where crowds gather to watch men stab each other for sport, wild animals devour criminals, and sometimes, if the emperor is feeling dramatic, reenact full naval battles with real water and real drowning. It's free to attend, which sounds generous until you realize it's free because the state wants you distracted while the Senate raises taxes and quietly annexes Armenia. You sit packed between sweaty strangers, cheering as a gladiator loses a limb. There's blood, sand, and occasional public executions with extra flair. You're clapping. You're not sure why. Feeling a little sensitive? Prefer theatre? Head to the amphitheatre for a Roman play. Maybe a tragedy written in Latin you barely understand, or a farce so bawdy the punchline involves someone pretending to defile Jupiter with a sausage. Subtlety is not the Roman strong suit. If you're feeling sporty, try the Circus Maximus. Chariot races are fast, thrilling, and regularly fatal. There are no guardrails, no helmets, and lots of shouting. Crashes are inevitable and spectacular, and the crowd loves it. They're here for the violence and the betting. Don't cheer for the wrong team unless you're ready to fight your way home. And then there's the street entertainment, fire breathers, acrobats, musicians, con artists, and the occasional philosophical rant from a barefoot man with nothing to lose. If you don't like the show, wait 5 minutes. Something else, or someone else, will start yelling. But behind all of it, there's a strange, brilliant madness. Rome didn't just distract its people. It dazzled them into forgetting how brutal daily life was. It weaponized spectacle. And if that doesn't numb you enough, there's always more wine. Now, let's take a walk through justice. Roman style. Spoiler. It's not comforting. You've survived work, dinner, and a gladiator getting impaled for applause. You might think you're safe now, that as long as you keep your head down, the law will protect you. Ah, that's adorable. In Rome, the law doesn't protect, it reminds. Reminds you that you're small, replaceable, and that mercy is a luxury reserved for statues of emperors. First off, legal status matters. If you're a citizen, you have rights, in theory. You can't be flogged in public unless someone important gets really annoyed and you get a proper trial. If you're non-citizen, justice comes in the form of a fist, a branding iron, or a swift execution outside the city gates. Slaves? They are property. If a slave murders their master, even if the master deserved it, every slave in the household might be executed, just to send a message. That message? Don't even think about it. If you're accused of a crime, don't expect a calm chat with a lawyer. Trials are public theatre. The wealthier party brings witnesses, bribes, and dramatic gestures. You bring your tunic and a sinking feeling. If you cry on cue, that might help. If you have no patrons, pray to Jupiter and hope the magistrate isn't hung over. Punishments are designed not just to hurt, but to deter. Thieves can be branded or have their hands broken. Liars might get their tongue pierced. Fraud? Public flogging or exile, if you're lucky. And if you insult the emperor, it's not jail time. It's death, usually creative. Some crimes require public punishment, ideally in front of a crowd that cheers louder than they did for the morning's beheading. Crucifixion is popular, long, slow, humiliating. It isn't reserved just for Jesus. It's the go-to for rebels, robbers, and anyone the state wants to make an example of. And remember, law enforcement isn't there to help. The vigiles are Rome's version of firefighters and police, underpaid, overworked, and often corrupt. If you're mugged, they might shrug. If you bribe them, they might help you mug someone else. So yes, Rome has laws, written in stone, recited in forums, but they serve power, not justice. Now let's talk about gods, because you're not just obeying men here. You're on Jupiter's turf. After surviving the streets and dodging Roman justice, you may hope to find comfort in religion. A little peace, a little personal spirituality. Nope, not here. In the Roman Empire, religion isn't a private affair. It's an institution, an ever-present cloud of incense and obligation wrapped around every waking moment of your life. You don't choose your gods, they choose you. And there are so many. There's a god for everything. Door hinges, cardia, sewers, cloacina, boundaries, terminus, and even mildew, robigus. You can't walk 5 paces without crossing a shrine. If you don't pause to bow, light a candle, or mutter a prayer, you're not just being rude, you're inviting catastrophe. Maybe not today, but eventually. And when your roof collapses, everyone will nod and say, "Ah, yes, he skipped the Saturnalia offering." Religious festivals fill the calendar, dozens per year. On those days business stops, animals are sacrificed, and the air smells like roasting bull and wet marble. You attend out of piety, but also fear. Because if the gods aren't honoured properly, they'll retaliate, with plagues, droughts, or a really bad harvest that ruins everyone's lentil supply. Now let's talk about emperor worship. The state wants you to revere the emperor not just as a ruler, but as a living god. You're expected to offer incense at his altar, sing his praises, and never, never roll your eyes during a triumphal procession. That's treason adjacent. If you're caught not participating in public worship, say you're a little too quiet during the Vestalia, or you don't show up to toss grain into the temple flame, you could be labelled impious, atheistic, or worst of all, suspicious. Suspicion in Rome is like blood in shark-infested waters. And if you're part of a foreign cult, you'd better keep that under wraps unless it's officially approved. The state doesn't like unfamiliar gods unless they bring wine, taxes, or new soldiers. Roman religion isn't about belief. It's about ritual. You don't have to feel it. You just have to do it. Correctly. On time. And in public. And you better smile while you sacrifice that goat. Speaking of social performance, let's climb the greasy pole of Roman ambition in the next chapter. You've bowed to the gods, avoided a lawsuit, and survived a public bath without contracting something mythical. But here comes the most exhausting part of Roman life, the social hierarchy.